My live feed. Yep, I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, man. Yeah, we're live. Just saying goodbye to Troy. He's heading out. I am, as you can see, still at West Tech. They're getting set up. I'll turn you guys around. They're getting everything set up for Engine Masters. They're going to be filming this week. They got all of the production stuff set up. Pretty cool. They really, they do a lot here. The production guys are awesome. They're like cool people, and they work very hard. So you can see all of the. Kind of see that's where they do all the filming in the box over there when they're doing static stuff. You know, basically everything's redone over here, over here. That's where all the magic happens. And me with my handheld camera, borrowing one of their stools, because that's how I roll. So I didn't have to stand up the whole time. So I've been working all day today on the 4.8 liter and finally got it running. So it wasn't without a lot of stuff. I mean, this motor, when I got it from the wrecking yard, had a bad cam, a bad lifter, bad tray, a broken push rod, 2 bad rockers, 1 bad rocker, the stand was broke on one side. In fact, the stands might have been broken on both sides, broken half at least. One of them had a big chunk out of it. One of the bosses for the rocker bolt was, I think he broke a rocker off and then tried to drill out the bolt that was in there that broke off. And then when he drilled it, it skirped the drill and went off to the side. And so he drilled through an area that was aluminum and not where the bolt was. So that was not in good shape. And then because you ran it for so long in this condition, that it basically just almost filled up 2 of the ports, both the intake and exhaust port on one side, and primarily the intake on the other side. And so they were just full of carbon stuff. And then one of the cylinders was a little bit wonky, and so I did the Super Richie ball hone on that. Did a razor blade rebuild on both the surfaces, and did some what I call screwdriver porting on the ports to try to get as much of I'm just trying to essentially chisel all that carbon out of there. And then also one of the valves was bent, and you'll see that in the photo or in the video that I'm doing on getting this stuff all together and running it. One of the valves tagged the piston, probably when the rockers broke or something. It has stock springs on it, which I'm going to do a cool test because I'm going to take Brian Tooley up on their on their recommendation or the ability of that Truck Norris, then the NSR version of the Truck Norris cam. I'm going to put it in this 4.8 and with the factory springs on it, just see what happens. I was going to do that if this thing was alive and running, and now it seems to be. I'm running it right now on a carburetor. I'm going to get another Terminator X, I think. And now that I've run the carburetor with the camshaft that's in it, the camshaft that is in it right now is an L33. So I'm going to take right now, I have a dual plane Performer RPM with a 4-hole spacer on it and an unknown carburetor size. I haven't even looked it up. Just grab one out of the shelf, put it on, did some jetting, did some interesting things with the jetting and power valving. I get rid of a power valve completely and then up the jetting and tried a number of things. And it was pretty cool kind of chasing the tune on that. And finally got it to come around because when I first started, the air fuel was in the 9s, and that's really not where it should be. As I would find out, it only wanted to be in the high 11s or very, very low 12s. So if I put it up near 13, then it just lost power. You guys will see that in the video because I have back-to-back tests on that when we did the power valve change, which typically the power valve was on the primary, and I went up in jet size by about 4 or 5 jets. Power valve is typically around 8 jets or 10 jets, 8 to 10 jets, but it was already having too much fuel flow because we monitor fuel flow on the A and the B side, and primary and the secondary side. It's labeled A and B on ours. but it had a lot more front fuel flow than it did rear. And so I wanted to take some of that away. The problem was that if I kept taking jetting away, the roll-in was so bad that it just didn't have enough jetting for that. It only had enough power when the power valve came on. I could have adjusted the power valve, but I did. I adjusted it right over into the cabinet and got rid of the power valve. Then just started, because the carburetor, when I took it apart, the jetting was almost square. It was 74, 76, but the front had a power valve on it. And so right when you go into wide open, it would just get pig rich. And so I just played with it kind of the way that I wanted it, rather than the way that I would do it for the street. But for the dyno, it was fairly easy. Get rid of the power valve, just do jetting. The jetting is going to be the same front to back, and it was. I think I put 78s or 80s in it eventually, and it with both the primary and secondary, and that put the air fuel kind of where it wanted to be. It did not want to be up in the 13. So all of you guys that are thinking, Richard, you need to tune that, and you need to tune that thing, that carbureted deal, and you need to put it in the 13s. Well, I did that, and it just did not like it. It made a lot less power. So I didn't want that. I have the MSD ignition controller on it, and we swept timing from 24 up to 30, a little above 32 and a half, I think. And that's kind of where it wanted to be. 32 is kind of the number with those, at least the LSs that we've run. Again, 4.8 stock 706 heads, stuff in them, stock lifters, stock rockers, stock push rods. In fact, 4 of the push rods, and this is in the video also, the tips were worn pretty badly. You could see it was not good. In retrospect, I should have checked the rockers too, because I'm sure the cups and the rockers are not great. But I put new, and by new, I mean another set of old ones that were in better shape than those were. Put new rockers on it, or put new lift or push rods on it. The lifters, I think I replaced 2 of the lifters. I think both the lifters on the offending intake problematic cylinders were bad. Like I said, did a ball hone on 2 of them, I think, just to kind of get it looking better. I honestly don't know if that would have done anything. I just like using the giant size ball with the piston in there. I know people are going to yell at me for that, but that's how I roll. So the question for tonight, the poll for tonight, is I'm going to put the truck intake manifold on there now. Late model truck, or not late model, the early model truck. Will the truck EFI intake and stock throttle body make more? We're going to make this hard. More peak torque than the Edelbrock Performer, and let's call it a 750 carburetor, because I don't know. It's at least a 650. It might be 750. I just haven't looked up the part number yet. 750 carb. So the poll for tonight will the truck EFI intake manifold and stock throttle body, stock manual throttle body that I have on there, same one I just ran on the cam testing, will the truck intake, the EFI intake, and stock throttle body make more power than the carbureted combination? The RPM, the Edelbrock RPM dual plane with this has a Wilson super lightweight 4-hole spacer on it, only because it helped the curve. It helped give me the air fuel curve that I wanted, because it was very, very rich down low and then started to top. And when I put the spacer on there, it kind of evened the curve out. And then that way I could just adjust everything. It worked out really well. Will it make more? Which one of those will make more power? Will the EFI truck intake manifold make more peak torque than the carbureted combo? So we will ask our community and see what you guys have to say. So are you an EFI guy? Are you a carburetor guy? It really doesn't matter. And just out of curiosity, you guys can let me know in the comments, which one do you think will make more peak power? Will the charge cooling from the carburetor and the dual plane intake, which works very well, that make more power on this? This is it's not even, it's just a little bit bigger than stock cam. It has that the camshaft that I think it has the camshaft that came out of the L33. So I think it has the stock L33 camshaft, which should be a little bit better than, it might be 20 or something better than, if I remember, or maybe 15, better than the stock LM7 camshaft. It was a little bit better if it's the same cam that I tested in the video. And if you haven't taken a look at it, please go take a look at it, where I tested all of the factory camshafts that I could get a hold of at the time. So there's quite a few of them, and we tested them all on a 5.3 to see how they did, to illustrate what happens to the power curves with each one of these, and then where the inherent trade-offs are. Some of them do very well, like the LS7 and LS9 camshafts actually make quite a bit of peak power, even on a 5.3. In the case of the LS9, even a naturally aspirated 5.3, which obviously was never designed for, and yet it makes pretty good power. It's pretty soft down low because it has a really wide LSA. It was designed for that, and they purposely did that. It has, it's kind of designed for the positive displacement supercharger, and they kind of soften it up down there, down low. It idles nice and does all the things that you'd expect of a factory camshaft, but it's not ideal, and it would be even worse for a 4.8 unless you wanted to just rev it and make it power. If you're all about the 6,000 to 8,000 range, then you would be okay with that kind of camshaft. But it has that camshaft in it, and so the question is, with that cam, which one of them is going to make more torque? Is it going to be the RPM and the carburetor, or the factory truck intake manifold? I'm running this on 91. Again, it's the stock compression. It has the stock flat top piston, stock 706 head. I even, for the first time in a long time, used basically factory replacement Fel-Pro gaskets, because we have a bunch of them here at Westech. And normally we would use the MLS stuff because it's, because we're going to usually add boost or nitrous or something to it. But we just, those were just there, and there was a bunch of them in kits that we had that nobody ever uses. And so I'm like, well, this thing may or may not deserve MLS gaskets. And as it turned out, it looks like it's probably going to, and which is an easy swap anyway, so that won't be a problem. But I ran those and I also changed the oil. The oil that was in it was from the startup and stuff that I did before, where we found out that not all the cylinders were accounted for. We saw that when I started it up without the header on it, it was just blowing flames out. I should probably do that again and do that video just so that we can see the flames again and see them through with all of the holes going, so with all the candles lit, as it were, because that's much better. So I might do that before I take it off. Before I take it off, we'll just pull the exhaust off and do a midnight madness run where we can see the flames coming out. And for those of you that are going to ask, no, I won't run a wide open throttle test like that. I might. That would be kind of cool. Or at least load into it so that you could really see some flames coming out of there. It's good stuff. Good times, good times. So let's see what you guys got going on. You guys got to see all around. They're getting everything ready. I'm over on the other side. I'm bringing home the 396, the L78, 400 or 375 horse, depending on what year and what car you have. Same motor. I'm bringing that home so I can paint it all up and get it assembled and stuff. Because I'm excited about testing that, seeing what it does in stock trim. I don't know if I'll do any modifications to it. I might. It probably would be better with something better than that original factory camshaft. That factory camshaft cannot be that great. They did use it in the 425 horse 427, though. I think that's the same camshaft. So it should be interesting to see what it does on the bigger motor. On the 396, that camshaft, and with the heads that are on it, that thing should actually rev pretty good. I know it has a dual plane intake manifold on it, but on a little 396, it should RPM fairly good. I think it's a flat tap or a solid flat tapping camshaft, so it should work pretty well. Aerosol. Propane versus 93. I've never run propane on anything. I don't have propane fueling to do that. Wet flow is the truck intake manifold. I don't know what you mean. the injectors are mounted in the intake manifold, but I guess technically they spray. This had what oil does this thing have in it? I think it has 30 weight, just straight 30. Normally I would put 5, but it's a junkyard motor, and that's what I had. What if you mount a carburetor where the throttle body would be? You have to have an adapter, and I honestly don't think that would work too well with the rigmarole that the fuel would have to go through. But it might be something I could try later on. I won't be able to try it for this trip though, because it'd be something I'd have to make. You really like the 455 episode? I'm going to do more 455 stuff because I'm building that 455 into a stage 1 replica. So I want to see what a stage 1 really does, just like with this 396. And I'm also putting together an LS6 454. What do you think about the plastic intake gasket? Which one? The one on the truck manifold? Oh, the plastic gasket for the carburetor? We've used those, but I've never run them long term though. Anyway, cam with the Oldsmobile 350 and Edelbrock Performer intake. Hobby, you need to go to sleep, so you want me to do it? You want me to just do the whole live feed tomorrow instead? Where's our poll at? We're still split a little bit. Will the truck EFI intake and stock throttle body make more peak torque than the Edelbrock Performance 750 carburetor? So 59% are saying yes on the more torque. They're all EFI guys. Oh, I didn't select my other mic, so we might be hearing some. Are you guys hearing mic noise? Have you ever done any Dodge 3.5s? No, I have not. EFI guys are young guys. I think EFI works regardless of your age, right? You should build my 5.3 and my G-Body Malibu. Why should I build it? I have shown you how to do it. You can do it just as well as I can. I ran a plastic spacer on my street car. A plastic carb spacer? Did it not work? If you're running Olds, a 455 Olds, Mexico, Francisco's in the house. Yeah, Scott, I saw the movie Porky's. Reading computer screen is hard for the eyes. Chicken picking typers. Everything about de-stroking a 6-liter with a 4.8 crank for high RPM setup. Zach, you need to take a look at the de-stroke video. I'm running 2 quick fuel 650s on my 4.8-liter inline 6-cylinder. Cool. I need a pair of old camel hump heads with bolt holes. Don't the trick flow versions of those have bolt holes in them? Do you think it would be impossible to LS a Yugo? No, even if it won't fit in the engine bay, because I don't know about the width of the engine bay or the length for that matter, but you put it in the hatch. You've already done this test with the CAM versus EFI intake manifold. We know the answer, the long runners produce more torque. I've only done that on a 6-liter that I can remember. Oh, so foreign, you saw a small block swap, Hugo, so there you go. I guess it's possible. A K series would also be enough for a Hugo for a guy wanting to make lots of power. And help with my 400M. Want to keep it or should I swap it out? Well, there's videos up on how to make power with it. There are lots of good Cleveland heads available for that. You just have to, it's a little bit harder finding intake manifolds for it. Jesse, so you swapped or you turbocharged your 600 horsepower NA big block. So that's a good start already. Yeah, 10 pounds, it would be a lot of fun. 10 pounds should be 4-digit stuff. Yeah, I want to do more K series stuff. Earlier in the year, I had mentioned a build that I was taking on small block stock bottom end 4.8, 799 Trailblazer SS, stage 4 LS1 cam. It's together to my 81 Fairmont with a BorgWarner T5 and idles at 950. That's a really big cam, but that's good. If that's the way that you want it, that's fine. You've done it on a 6-liter and a Gen 6 454. Yeah, but a Gen 6 454 intake is completely different than a truck LS intake manifold is. Our 318 Mopar is good for hot riding. Yes, any engine responds to, or motor responds to power upgrades. You just put heads, cam, intake, boost, or boost. Can VVT from a Gen 4 5.3 be installed on a Gen 4 4.8? Yes, you can. That was Pontiac 4-cylinder. I'm waiting for the pistons and rods. Andy was actually supposed to bring them over. They may be here now today. They may have arrived today. What if there was a big block version of the LS platform? Well, the Gen 7 is kind of like that, and then they have the 8.1 is, you know, it uses a lot of the. In fact, we run an LS harness, so it's similar enough to do that, and it has cylinder heads that are LS-esque, and then there's of the 8.1. There's an 8.8. Stock LS3 blue springs are rated for 550 lift with the BTR Truck Norris non-NSR cam. Do much if you don't raise the rev limiter. What is the lift on the standard Truck Norris? I don't remember. Is it like 550? The RPM is not going to change our piston or not going to change coil bind clearance though. Did the Cadillac big block outperform? I think I have a video up comparing the Pontiac and the Cadillac, although I don't think either one of them were optimized. The Cadillac was rebuilt and put back together, and it made 400 or thereabouts, and 500 plus foot-pounds, I think. And the 455 Buick was nowhere near that. When being that the runners are longer, the big block on the Gen 6 454 are not nearly as long as the runners are on the LS intake manifold. But in the test, the EFI intake manifold did make more low-speed power than the dual-plane carbureted application on the big block. You should start ordering parts for your RB. That would be nice for me to be able to afford to have the money that I would need to pre-order all the parts for all of the motors that I want to dyno. You don't have the skill to tune a carb for boost. Do you at least have a blow-through carburetor? Shadow, the truck Norris cam is 560 lift. I don't think the truck Norris cam will work with the factory LS3 springs. And valve float could become an issue, although the truck Norris cam is not a high RPM cam. Have you heard of the Icon brand of forged pistons? Yeah, we've used them before, and I think Andy has used them quite a bit. How much is a 1,500-mile LS 6-liter short block worth? $100. So just send it over if you want, and then we'll give you $100. You want to see the new stock versus, I don't know what you mean by 4150. That's just a design of carburetor. Maybe you mean a Holly? A 93 Corvette with an LT1, what intake is best? 93. You have a 93 Corvette? That would be a neat trick. No on the blow-through carburetor? You need a blow-through carburetor. Just got one on Sunday. So 1,500 for a 6 high. Uh-oh, my connection's unstable. There we go, and we're back. Ugh. I'm glad I have a chair. What'd you end up doing with the Keglodon? Actually, the guy that helped me get it, the guy that I got it from originally, has it now. I think he may have picked it up or something. Maybe wanted it for a show. So I need to get it back from him, and I'd like to send it to Cletus and see if he'll put it on something. RBs have always been popular. Finding parts will be hard. I have almost everything. I think I might just need a flywheel, but I'm sure that that's available. I converted my Electra Townie bike with an Amazon e-bike kit, and it goes 40 to 50. That seems really fast. Scott, is the Milo question for me? I need an LQ4 as we are, let's see. I'd love to get one for $1,000. We need to try series carburation. But what do you mean by that? Pull through carb versus blow through. Yeah, a draw through carburetor or draw through turbo is something I want to do anyway, so I will do that on something. That you're going to hear audible detonation in a could be pre-ignition or could be detonation, could be either one of those. It's going to sound like what you're explaining on your two-stroke, except it's going to be louder. Scott, so if the Milo question was for me, Milo is, for people that don't know, is my golden retriever. He's obviously not here at West Tech, but the Milo name comes from the book, The Phantom Toll Booth. Gateway, a 5.3 iron block can be bored to 6 liter. Can it? Can it really? and still have enough wall thickness to work? $72 volt and 1500 watts. That's cool. A carb after a carb. Okay, you have to draw me a diagram of what you're talking about. So I don't know what you're doing. Does anybody know if a bell housing Alpha 4L60 can be used on a Power Glide? Scott, no, it's The Phantom Toll Booth, the name of the book by Norton Jester. It's a very good book. If you haven't read it, you should. And every kid in the world should read that. I made a lawnmower. It made my lawnmower a draw through turbo. Where did you find a turbo small enough for that? Confirm my son's motor has flat top pistons, so it's a 4.8. How do aggressive cams do with flat tops? Different clearances than dishes? No, the piston to valve clearance is the same. In fact, it's not the same. The piston to valve clearance on a dish piston and a flat top piston is the same for an LS because the piston overhangs where the edge of the dish is anyway. So it overhangs the flat part of it, the outer part of that piston. So it's going to hit there. So that's the same. On a 4.8, the piston to valve clearance is different on the 4.8 because it has a shorter stroke. So its acceleration up to and away from top dead center is different than the longer stroke is. 5.3s can be bored to 5.7s. They could go to, we normally go to 3.902 or 3.905. You can go to 3.890 like a stock LS1 over whatever. 3.902 or 3.905 is pretty common. I want to do one. I want to go to 4-inch on one of them and just see what happens and then measure it. Yeah, Phantom Toll Booth is easily one of my favorite books. My Side of the Mountain, Color Courage, all of those were good. And I made sure that my son read those, my sons, that they both read those. Old Man in the Sea. You got to read stuff like that. $3,900 is not thin on a 5.3. We've run lots and lots of them like that, even under boost. I wouldn't go to that bore size if I was running a 5.3 under boost. There's just no reason to do that. You can make all you have with boost. You have all the power that you need. You don't need the displacement. Have you seen Boss Haas motorcycles? Yeah, the ones with the V8s in them. High voltage, you can sleeve them and make them bigger. That we've done that a lot. In fact, the motor that I did, I made a 468 out of it when we sleeved an LS6, an aluminum LS6 block. Richard, I'm dropping 4.8 with a Summit towing cam in my 89 Fox body. They said from Summit I could use the stock rings Will it make a big difference if I use 600 springs versus stock? No, it will be fine. Spring it, don't put a bunch of spring rate in it. But without a sleeve to a 4-inch bore, I don't know. I want to try it. I mean, you can physically bore it out, and you can run a 4-inch piston in a 5.3 or a 4.8. It will physically go in there. There will be material around it. I just don't know how much. It'll probably be enough to run. I'm sure I could do it and run it on the dyno. I just don't know if it will overheat, if they'll distort. I just don't know how much material will be there, particularly on the thrust side. James and the Giant Peach. Yep, that's good. It has an eBay sloppy stage 2. That's pretty big for a 4.8. Max lift on stock LS springs. It depends on what LS spring you have. There's really 2 of them, and there might be more that I don't know about, but the 2 that I know about, one of them is less than 500 lift. The other one is like 550 lift. What type of literature do you value? Lots and lots of different kinds. So Careford, so if anyone's in Hawaii, I have an iron-headed 6-liter with trans, complete engine. Come and take it. That's almost worth me taking a trip to Hawaii for. Can you put flat top 4.8 pistons in a 5.3? Yes, you can. You just have to take them off of the rods and put them on the 5.3 rods, because you have to run the 5.3 rod and crankshaft, and then you can run a 4.8 piston. The compression height is the same pistons. Some of the 5.3s, like the L33 that I have, the aluminum one, the HO versions, had flat top pistons in it. I'd like to see some CFM tests to see how that you don't need as big of a carburetor as you think. I thought that I did that test. I thought we did a 650, 750, 850, 950 thing. I have to go back and look at it's been a lot of videos, but I thought that I did that test. If not, it's certainly something that we can do. It's gonna be a function of the power output. Richard, I just ordered a 3D printer. After seeing that a carbon fiber reinforced nylon holds up as an intake manifold. Does it hold up to the heat, though? That's the thing that I'm worried about. I have an intake manifold that I want to test. I'm a little worried about the heat, though. I'm in the process of unboring 302 and making. So are you sleeving it down to get the size? So Getaway, you need to sonic check those to see how much wall thickness they actually have. You really get 1,000 horsepower out of a 6-liter stock block. Yes, very easily, in fact. You can do that with stock heads and a cam and boost and ring gap. And obviously you have to have the right size injector and stuff. But yeah, that's not hard. Seeing the CFM at different RPMs other than peak would be interesting. Well, we would if we put an air hat on. If we did carburetors, we put an air hat on it, and the air hat will give us a flow curve all from the start of the RPM range, 3,000 or whatever, to 6,500 or wherever we rev it to. Can you measure the bottom of the cylinder thickness to determine the maximum bore? It might give you an idea, but I don't know if the sleeve thickness is consistent all the way up. you ever read any Russian? Tolstoy, I think. Dostoevsky, I don't think I have. Hemingway, yes. Steinbeck, yes. Yeah, you have to do a sonic check. It would be the best way to. So you want to know that it's 105 or it's 205. If it's in between there, you got something to worry about. What is holding 60 psi at 170 degrees? Mike, I didn't see what your thing was before. It went by too fast. Project, the Hemi heads match the. Yeah, I think the bore spacing on those is really similar to an LS. Eight sleeves, yep, going from a 4-inch bore to a 3800, 3240 Bonneville car. Very cool. I posted a photo or a short video clip today. One of the customers came into Westech and he had, I think, is a 32 or a 34, and he had a small block in it. It started out as a crate motor, and then it was something different, and it had a tunnel ram on it. And what he did was put, which I loved, which is why I did the thing on it, is he put extensions on it, about this big of extensions, between the lid where the carburetors are and the base, the tunnel rammy part. So he made, kind of a sky ram, and that was my comment in it about that. What he wanted was the scoop to be up above the radiator shrouding, basically, because you want to get the ram air. And I told him how cool it was, because just the extensions on the tunnel ram were cool and would definitely help the torque. Four pattern cams in LS, you would only want to do that the reason that they do that is for carbureted applications where you have long runner and short runner. Be cool to see how CFM compares to CFM calculators. The CFM calculators for what? For the engine? For how much power the engine makes? It's like if you have a 400 horsepower engine, it makes this much airflow. Is that what you're talking about? Or the calculators for carburetors? $350 HO and a 2,875 pound car. That's good. How good is an 823 head on a 6-liter? It's very good. It's the head that they used on the LY6 from the factory, and probably other 6-liter variants that they did. I've run it a lot on that LY6 before we ran boost on it. I mean, we ran boost with those heads too, because every head is a boost head. Using your CHI 185 heads on it, 206 and 15, that'll be good. What's the limit of a Hellcat iron block? I have no idea. It's a fairly high horsepower deal. It wouldn't surprise me if it's maybe even beyond where the LS stuff is. Monkey, you change a fuse, Your pump's coming on, but no fuel's coming out. Do you have a clogged filter? Tom, yeah, if it's 552, I think that will work with the LS3 spring. I think guys have run that with LS3 spring. The thing is, you need to know what it's set up at, and you need to check it. I mean, what if your LS3 springs coil bind at 500 or not 500 at right at 550 and you're at 552? I think that there's some wiggle room there. I can't remember the last time we tested some blue ones to see what the actual, because you need not just where coil, you need to see relative to whatever your installed height is. So you got to do some subtraction there. I tested VW smog pump. Oh, I did run the smog pump that Mark gave me. So I just did a quick, attach it to the battery kind of test. I just want to see, I want to feel how much airflow it is. This is a VW smog pump. This didn't feel like very much flow. This was a 12-volt battery. Will a 6-liter and a 480 into a 2007? I think so. That body style should be old enough to where it could have come with that, right? How much better are the mask, black label, CNC heads than a factory rec port stuff? The amount of gain that you get versus what they have the potential to do is dramatic. What I found when we ran the LS3 head test, we did it on a 468. And the reason I did it on a 468 is because a lot of those heads were flowing 350, 360, 370, 380, whatever. So you need a motor that if you have a 380 or 90 CFM head, that's an 800 plus horsepower cylinder head. So putting that head on a 500 or 600 horsepower LS3 is a waste of time. Well, it's not a waste of time. You'll get a little bit of a gain, but the gain won't be huge, not because the head won't do that, because it will support the bigger number. You don't have enough motor to go with it to use what that head has. When we ran the stock head, I think we made 660 or 670 or something like that with the stock head. So it supported a lot of power. Pac wants you to have max lift, just a few thou under coil bind to help it with Valvetrain surge. I think that their number is going to be more than a few thou. Probably 10 or 20 would be closer to where I know that they're trying to get rid of spring oscillation, and that helps. But I think 1 or 2 thou would be pretty close. Seeing how CFM changes as cam duration goes up would be interesting, and using that to compare to CARB CFM calculators. I guess that's more power. It uses more air. So that's the way to think about it. And airflow goes up with engine speed. I have some experience with big bore short stroke stuff in comp cars. Be interesting, a video of different oil pressures and different pumps affecting horsepower. The Engine Masters guys did that already. What is the correct compression ratio to run a Pro Charger and drive it on the street? Are you waiting for like an absolute number? Because there's not one. But it'll work at 9.1, it'll work at 10 to go up in compression. You have to be spot on your tune if you're limiting it with octane. Yeah, you need to. Phantom Toll Booth is good. I actually have a signed first edition that my good friend Lori gave me way back, and so shout out to Lori. Thank you very much. You might have audio problems. It's the mic is not great, and the Wi-Fi here is not fantastic. As more talking about a bigger spring in an OEM pump versus a Mellings versus a ported OEM pump. Okay. What is considered too big of a turbo on a 5.3? The too big of a turbo definition would come from you, not from anybody else. And it would be the turbo sizing that does not give you the response rate that you want. That would be too big. I'm putting a 98 millimeter on a 6 liter. That's a, so you're wanting to make like 1,500 plus horsepower with that? On 24 volt it flowed 8.7 grams per second at 4 psi, enough for about 10 horsepower, but it's internally protected and cuts out after 5 or 10 seconds. I'm probably not going to use it more than 10 seconds, but getting 24 volts would be a little bit of an issue. I think maybe a bigger leaf blower might be the answer, because it's already has a charged battery, and it would work for when I go ride this Trail 90. I'm not out on the road in boost for whatever, so any sort of charge like leaf blower would work. Oh, it takes 20 minutes to reset it. Yeah, I don't have a feel for how much flow that this thing had versus what 7 horsepower feels like. As I could only feel the exhaust, although hopefully with not burning myself, to see what that is. I don't have a feel for how much flow that is. It's probably not very much. So you want to see how much cam you can get away with a 650 carb on a big block? Well, the cam that you can get away with on a big block is going to be a function of the piston valve and not your carburetor. But I see what you're saying. But the cam is not going to dictate that. The horsepower is going to dictate that. So it could be cam, could be head, could be intake manifold. Any recommendations on 351 turbo? Yes, I think you should definitely do it. For $700, you can have a 190cc engine and your Trail 90. My Harbor Freight has an 80-volt brushless leaf blower. Nice. Leaf blowers are not going to make any positive pressure. I don't know how a leaf blower that flows 400 CFM can't make more pressure than that. Dazzle. So you have a 98 LS1 Pro Charge, all bolt-ons. I don't know what that means. No cam. So you have a stock cam. So you don't have all the bolt-ons. Will cutouts. Are you talking about exhaust cutouts? Do you have headers on it? And if it did gain a lot of power, it probably would need more fuel. It probably would need to be retuned. Did you get the guy's $500 back? No, I haven't. He sent me an email, so I wanted him to talk to his bank and figure out what's going on. I'm a little skeptical about what's going on with that. I need to plug my thing in. I don't know. I'm not going to keep anybody's money. I don't care about that. I just don't want it to be somebody trying to do something that they shouldn't be. There we go. Now we're plugged in again. Richard, of all the Gen 3, 4, 5 motors, which one is your favorite? Whatever the next one is. I don't think the Gen 5 stuff is ever going to, I mean, I can't afford a new truck or anything, so I'm not going to have that motor. I have an L83 here, but it's problematic. It's limited in how much power we can make out of it because of the fuel system, the expense of what you'd have to do to the fuel system. So it's cool, but I think I like the LS stuff better right now. Well, Ben, I could modify the leaf blower. I could modify the impeller. I could take up some of that. Maybe I could sleeve it. Or maybe I could add duct tape to the outer edge of the impeller. Start a GoFundMe for a 25 leaf blower supercharge setup. We should test the leaf blower turbos on your channel Yugo project. On our channel Yugo project. Does anybody, are there any transmission guides here? What parts should be replaced? Mostly stock turbo 400 to be reliable. Are they clutches and bands? Are they putting 400M input shafts in those things? What are they doing to the 400s? 400M. It's good, huh? We know that the leaf blowers will make boost because I've seen them do it already. We know that Freiberger did it, and then I know even way before that a guy did it with an electric one on an SHO Taurus. He was only able to make pressure down low because they didn't have enough flow. Leaf blower challenge. How would I go about sending that 300 with heads on it over to you? I'm going to cut some billet pistons and rods for it. So we're going to hold the abuse like nitrous and a turbo. Turbo 400 is pretty stout as it is. There's a high clutch drum that adds another clutch disc and updated sprag. turbo leaf blower. If I could find like a 10 horsepower turbo, that would be really good. Or even a 15 or 20 horsepower turbo. If I could get it to be small enough that it would spool on that, then I would just do a draw through turbo. Mike, you can run stock Borg-Warner clutches. They're what Rossler uses. You just need non-pot metal clutch drums and valve body mods. Important to make sure that the shifts aren't too aggressive for the Sprag. Yeah, the cam's only going to dictate, is only one of the things, one of the big three that we talk about, heads, cam, and intake manifold, that are going to dictate where the thing makes power and how much power ultimately that it makes too. Richard, I have a 4.8 liter, put in 87 square body with a turbo 400. What's a good cam for an NA stock internals? Does it have a, my question is, does the trans have a higher stall speed converter? Do you remember the boost caboose? I do, yeah. Every every live chat. Mark, did you get a hold of me? We need to talk about a Bonneville thing. Clutches, bands, billet planetary, Torrington style thrust bearings, billet input and output on the Turbo 400. Your client has arrived. Good. You can supercharge small engines with the supercharger. Yeah, I've seen those. What are those? The MZ4s or whatever they're called. There's some designation for it, but that's too big for a 7 horsepower motor, though. Yeah, fascist. I'll try different cones on them, and I might look at the impellers. If I can, if I can do something to the inside on the outside of the impeller on the inside diameter to change the boost potential, that would be, it'd just be a cool deal. I might try that on the smog pump that Mark gave me. I might take a look inside there and see what's in there. One, because I want to see if I can use it, if I can make the 2 orifices bigger, so I can maybe improve the flow rate. And then I could run it with a Kenny Bell booster pump, so I could go from 12 to 17 volts. It's all push button stuff for 5 or 10 seconds or whatever. But it'd be cool to do it as a draw through if the fuel could go through there. And it's just, poetic justice that you're using a smog pump to make a supercharger. So after a certain size cam, the CFM is going to go up beyond my 600 CFM CARB will support. It's not cam. It's anything. It could be cylinder heads. It could be lots of stuff. Yeah, sent you an email. Would love to do videos on Saturday with my teacher, Rich Thompson, main guy knowledge. Cool. What is today's live feed? It is time to turn off I haven't even checked our poll. Will the truck EFI and stock throttle body make more peak torque than the Edelbrock Performer and 750? 59% saying yes and 41% saying no. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to be running that tonight. 1 minute. Actually, 45 seconds. Time to go. I got stuff I got to get done. I have a mag swap and a cam swap. All of that. Blue plate specials. Saw some electric superchargers that look like bilge blowers. Yeah, that's really what this slug pump is. It's just an electric motor spinning an impeller. It's not anything magic. What they're using that for, how they're programming it to do what they need to do, that's really the thing. I mean, it's a very complex piece to make, obviously. And on that note, it is time to go. See, when I was calling for my 2 minutes, it was even less than 2 minutes. Showing up, I got work to do, but I'll see you tomorrow.